used to believe that survival meant freedom, that as long as we were alive, we could find a way to reclaim ourselves. The first month aboard the Lamia, the Zypherian mothership, felt like drowning, slowly, painfully, without ever reaching the surface. When the designations came, they hit like a hammer blow, shattering whatever fragile illusion of equality remained among us. Every human had been assigned a designation, a class, a label, a new purpose. They hadn't asked who we were or what we dreamed of before the world started to end. They didn't care about our hopes, our fears, our humanity. Now it wasn't about who we were or what we could offer. It was about value, cold, calculated, and unfeeling. The Zypherians didn't see us as people, or at least didn't have same definition for people as human did. We were sorted without understanding how, without any explanations, without resistance. Level 1 combatants, trained to fight under Zypherian rule. Their band had been marked with an unbroken circle. They were the healthiest, the strongest. Level 2 marked with a circle split in half. Minds that were sharp, quick, capable of unraveling complexities. Level 3 servants, the disposable workforce, marked with a triangle. The Zypherians had scanned me, their cold, glowing eyes flickering over my body, and they had seen my disease. I had been branded in an instant. They had seen the weakness in my lungs, the way my body betrayed me with every breath. To them, I was flawed, unworthy of genetic continuity. That meant I was level 3. It meant I would live. It meant I would serve. That was me. The moment I saw the triangle mark on my wristband, I wanted to claw it off my skin. It was a glowing, sickly green, etched into the band like a brand. The assignments came quickly and work became our new reality. The Zypherians had no tolerance for idleness. Every human was put to work, schedules implanted into our bands, tiny glowing markers that buzzed when we were expected to move. The ship had no clocks, no day or night, only the silent hum of work, of exhaustion. Men were overworked. Factories, infrastructure, the functioning machine of the ship ran on them. At first, the Zypherians seemed distant, almost indifferent. They moved among us like shadows, their towering forms gliding silently through the corridors. Their presence was oppressive, yes, but not overtly cruel. They gave orders, monitored progress, and ensured compliance, but they rarely interacted directly with humans unless necessary. For a while, some of us dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, this arrangement wouldn't be as bad as we feared. And then people began to disappear. At first, we assumed the worst. Rebellion? Had they been taken somewhere else? No one knew for sure until the first accident. We weren't allowed in the upper levels. That much had been clear from the beginning. Level 3 workers had their corridors, their designated areas, and they were not to stray. One man did. No one knew how or why, maybe curiosity, maybe desperation. But one moment he was there, just another face among the silent ranks, and the next, the corridor swallowed him whole, or at least that is the rumor. One blink, he existed. The next, he didn't. And still, no one knew. And no one was brave enough to ask Zypherian directly, and leaders shrugged it off, muttering something about accidents. Fear had a way of keeping mouths shut. Even now I don't know if the story is true or just another fabricated tale designed to keep us in line. Either way, it worked. We stayed where we were told. We followed the rules, and we learned. Never step where you shouldn't. Never linger too long in the wrong place. Never ever think you're more than what they've assigned you to be. My first assignment was in the kitchens. The air was thick with the smell of something unidentifiable, sharp and stinging sweet, like burnt wood, and with hint of spices. Zypherian food bore no resemblance to what we were used to. Their meals were prepared one way, served another, entirely separate from ours. Humans' meals was grainy, gelatinous, and smelled faintly of overripe mango. My job was to prepare it, to portion it out into trays for the other humans. I tried not to gag as I worked, my hands trembling as I scooped the foul-looking substance into bowls. "You will get used to it," a voice murmured behind me. I turned to see a woman gaunt, hollow-eyed, her hair streaked with grey. The triangle on her wristband marked her as a servant. "It tastes better than it looks," she muttered, though there was no conviction in her voice. I didn't believe her, but I nodded anyway, because what else was there to do? The work was monotonous, brutal in its simplicity. Scoop, pour, repeat. My hands trembled as I handled the gelatinous substance, each motion feeling heavier than the last. By the end of my shift, my arms ached and my head throbbed. Some days, I worked until my hands were raw and my body ached as I scrubbed the floors. Not with soap and water, but with a strange, violet substance that smelled of rust and burnt ozone. The Zypherians didn't like filth, didn't tolerate disorder. Every surface had to gleam, every inch of their ship polished and pristine. I knelt for hours, dragging cloth over the floors, my hands raw, my back screaming. On other days I carried crates filled with things I didn't understand. The band on my wrist buzzing relentlessly, pushing me from one task to the next. It was late, the last shift of the day, and the hallway was empty apart from me. I was lost in the monotony of the task, my mind numb with exhaustion. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Fast, frantic, uneven. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The steps grew louder, closer, echoing down the corridor. I turned just as Dhruv crashed into me. The impact sent me staggering back, the breath ripped from my lungs. He was panting, his chest heaving, his eyes wild with fear and desperation. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with sweat and blood, and his hands trembled as he gripped my shoulders. "Please," he gasped, his voice hoarse. "Help me." Panic flared in my gut, sharp and unrelenting. My mind raced, trying to piece together what could have driven him to this state. "Dhruv, hey, what's going on? What happened?" But before he could answer, the wolves shuddered violently, a low, guttural groan reverberating through the corridor. My stomach twisted. "What happened? What did you do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dhruv swallowed hard, his gaze flickering. "I demanded to meet the Admiral." My breath caught. "You what?" "They assigned me as a servant," he spat, his voice shaking with fury. "Me? An army commander. They stripped me of everything and expected me to bow like a dog. I refused. I fought back. I felt cold, the implications settling deep in my bones. He was bleeding badly, but not all of it was red. There was something else, something blue. I inhaled sharply. "You hurt one of them." He gave a hollow laugh, wiping the blood from his mouth. "I did more than that." A silence stretched between us. Then he whispered, "They let me run." His voice was hoarse, shaking, and that's what he was now. Prey. "They're going to punish you," I whispered, the realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. A cold dread settled over me. "You need to report to the human leaders. Maybe they can intervene." He shook his head violently. "No, I already tried. They won't help. They can't. They're coming." He grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. "Please, there has to be another way out." I glanced around, desperate for an escape route, but the ship's architecture was alien and ever-changing. "I don't know, maybe if we—" Before I could finish, several Zypherians emerged around the corner. Dhruv's eyes widened, and he pushed past me, his boots slamming against the floor as he ran. The ship reacted instantly. The smooth metallic walls moved. They shifted like muscle tightening around bone, swallowing the corridor ahead of him. The path that had been opened seconds ago was gone, replaced by a solid wall of seamless silver. Dhruv skidded to a stop. He turned wildly, looking for another way. There was none. The long, familiar corridor I'd spent hours cleaning moments ago vanished, replaced by a solid barrier that shimmered faintly, pulsing with energy. It was as if the ship itself had turned against him, hunting him down with a mind of its own. "What in the hell?" I muttered under my breath, backing away instinctively. The rumors were true, it means. Dhruv skidded to a stop, his body colliding harshly with the newly formed barrier. For a split second he stood frozen, staring at the impenetrable surface as if willing it to part. But when it didn't, he spun wildly, searching for another way out. There was none. The Zypherians closed in, their movements fluid and deliberate, exuding an aura of absolute control. Each step echoed ominously, reverberating through the confined space. Dhruv backed up until he hit the sealed wall behind him, his breathing ragged and erratic. One of the Zypherians stepped forward, its elongated limbs moving with predatory grace. Its glowing eyes scanned Dhruv, then flicked briefly to me before returning to him. The creature tilted its head slightly, studying him like a scientist examining a specimen. "You have defied us," it said, its voice resonating deeply, vibrating through the air like a warning. "Such actions carry consequences." Dhruv clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. Despite his obvious fear, there was still a spark of defiance in his eyes. "Go to hell," he snarled, his voice cracking under the strain. The Zypherian didn't react, at least not visibly. Instead, it raised a clawed hand, and the other warriors moved forward, surrounding Dhruv completely. "No," I shouted, stepping forward instinctively. "Wait!" But my plea went unanswered. I should have run. I should have disappeared into the corridors, slipped away like a ghost. But my feet refused to move. I watched, paralyzed, as Dhruv fought. He was fast, his fists connecting with sickening force, but the Zypherians were faster. One of them ducked beneath his swing and slashed at his side. Blood splattered the floor. He grunted, staggering, but didn't stop. In one swift motion, the Zypherians grabbed Dhruv, lifting him off the ground despite his struggles. He thrashed wildly, shouting curses and pleas alike, but it was futile. Their strength was overwhelming, their resolve unshakable. The Lamia's walls rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. And then they opened. A figure emerged,